Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So let's talk about what just happened, because Stephen Miller just said the quiet part out loud and the internet is going absolutely wild over it. So Stephen Miller went on CNN and made a statement that instantly raised eyebrows. He said, and I quote, "The president has plenary authority." But what really caught everyone's attention wasn't just what he said, it was what happened right after that. So he froze, like literally froze, and the clip was so awkward that it almost looked like a technical glitch. But here's the thing, a lot of people online are saying it wasn't a glitch. Yeah, it wasn't a glitch. Yeah, I agree with a lot of people. It's like he suddenly realized mid-sentence that he wasn't supposed to say what he said. For context, the reporter had just asked him whether the administration planned to abide by the recent court ruling, which you'll hear more about in a moment. And Miller responded by saying the administration filed an appeal this morning, and right in between that response, he slipped in those words, "The president has plenary authority," then boom, complete freeze. So people are breaking down the clip frame by frame and questioning whether it was an editing cut, a nervous moment, or something deeper. Either way, the internet isn't letting this one slide. So take a look at this clip just in case you missed it, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below and the reactions this has gotten online. I'll come back at the end of this video to give my own 2 cents. Let's watch this. Please make sure you watch the video all the way up to the end.
You've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? It seemed, Stephen, I apologize. It seems like we're having a technical issue.
So they want us to think that Stephen Miller had a glitch moment when he was just on the news talking about the president has a preliminary authority, right? So we all heard him say that, right? Stating that basically they have the right to nationalize, well, send the National Guards. You get what I'm saying? The president can do this now. He's saying that this is what the fuck is going on. So he basically acknowledged, you get what I'm saying, the Agenda 2025. He acknowledged it. So he acknowledged everything that we've all been saying this whole entire time with them deploying the National Guard to all of these cities and things like that. So y'all get exactly what the fuck Stephen Miller just did, right? Was that a glitch? Was it really a glitch?
Stephen Miller went on CNN and said that Trump has plenary authority. And then the man froze. Like, sat there frozen, blinking. Didn't say a word, silent. As if somebody in his earpiece said, abort mission, because we all know he wasn't supposed to say that out loud. Now, here's why that term plenary authority does not just mean a lot of power, okay? It means absolute, total power. It means unchecked power, as in what I say is law type power. And baby, that's not democracy, that is dictatorship. So in the United States, the president's power is never plenary, okay? There are checks and balances. Every move the president does is supposed to be checked by Congress, the courts, the states. Like, that's literally the point. The founders didn't fight a whole war against a king to just hand the throne over to another one with a goddamn flag pin. So when Miller dropped that word, baby, he was accidentally telling us what they really think. They think that Trump should rule, not govern. That was a goddamn Freudian slip with fascist frosting, bitch. And that freeze after, baby, that was not a glitch, and that was not nerves. That was the realization, because baby, plenary authority is the language of authoritarianism. The very idea that one man's will sits above the law, above Congress, above you. And this is how it starts, with big words on TV that are meant to sound legal, rational, and harmless. But the use of words like that reshape the way people think power should work. This is literally how you prep a nation for control. Not through guns, through words, language. So what we just heard him say, plenary authority, baby, that's him saying we don't plan on sharing power anymore. And once that becomes normalized, freedom becomes optional. And judging by that silence, even he realized he said the quiet part out loud.
The reason why Stephen Miller froze up when he brought up plenary authority is because it's probably a little too early to be admitting that you are going to be ignoring any and everything all these judges say. It's also probably a little suspicious that you would bring up that the president fully plans on ignoring any judge's rulings in order to fulfill this plenary authority after we saw a judge in South Carolina have their house blown up for disregarding one of his orders. The reason why he froze is because they are trying to get this agenda put in place without explicitly saying it. Because if they explicitly say it, they can be held liable for it. And if they can be held liable for it, this will turn the gears of everybody in our legal system that is willing to stand up to them and stop them. Now we will probably see more judges ruling to slow down all of this National Guard stuff. More judges that he appointed too. Because now they have said straight up, we're going to break the law. And we're going to use the military against American citizens. We have the power. We are going to use that power. And we don't expect anybody to stop us. But see, if they rolled this out incrementally as tensions were rising in these cities where they are upping the military action, if they rolled this out step by step and perhaps fell into a situation where somebody did something that whatever gave them the justification, that's one thing. Now, everybody will be looking for the justification that they're going to use.
Stephen Miller claiming that Donald Trump has plenary authority is his open public admission that this administration is involved in an act of treason. Treason is defined as either aiding your enemies, which we probably already are with Russia, or waging war-loving war against your country. Now that statement alone, he could say, I didn't know what that meant, or I used the wrong word. We all know that he knew exactly what it meant, which is why he froze like a bitch that he is as soon as he said it. But that coming off the back of Donald Trump ordering American troops to use American cities as training grounds, those two things hand in hand, that just sealed the deal. That's the hamburger and the bun, baby. That is black and white, cut and dry, a declaration of loving war against the citizens of your own country. And while those two things separately are bad, together, it just confirms it. This is the nail in the coffin. Download those videos, make sure that they don't disappear, and call your fucking congressional leaders. These are open confessions.
Stephen Miller just slipped. On live TV, he just said the quiet part out loud that Trump has plenary authority. For anyone who doesn't speak legalese, plenary authority means absolute power. It's the idea that a president's authority is total and unchecked, and Miller wasn't talking about theory. He was defending Trump's power to deploy the National Guard anywhere without governors, without Congress, without any oversight. And that single phrase, plenary authority, cuts right to the heart of what our founders feared most. They fought a war to escape a king with plenary power. They built a constitution that divides power precisely to prevent it. The president commands the military under civilian law, under Congress, and under the people. When Miller invokes plenary authority, he's not citing American tradition. He's citing authoritarian tradition. That's the language of rulers who believe the Constitution is a suggestion and not a restraint. The founders didn't bleed to crown another monarch in the future. They wrote checks and balances to ensure no man, no matter how loud, rich, or vengeful, could claim plenary control over free people. The founders warned us that the greatest threat to liberty would come draped in patriotism, preaching power without limit. Stephen Miller just confirmed they were right.
You know, sometimes the truth doesn't slip out by accident. It slips out because it's been sitting right there just waiting for someone bold or careless enough to say it. Recently, during an interview, Stephen Miller, yes, that's Stephen Miller, the one who helped shape some of the most extreme immigration policies in modern history, was asked about this current administration. And he said something that should have shaken the entire nation. He said the president has plenary authority. And then he froze. Not because the camera froze, not because of bad internet. He froze because he realized what he had just said out loud. That word plenary means complete, absolute, without limitation. So when he said that the president has plenary authority, he was literally saying the president's power should not be questioned, not by Congress, not by the courts, not by the people. And for anyone who still doubts that we are living under authoritarianism, that was the quiet part said out loud. Now, let's talk about what happens when a nation accepts that kind of language, when plenary authority becomes a political talking point instead of a constitutional warning. we begin to see the erosion of balance, the unraveling of the three branches of government that were meant to keep one another in check. We see it when judges are targeted for doing their jobs, like the federal judge who refused to hand over voter registration data, and soon after, her house was burned to the ground. We see it when elected officials, Democratic representatives, are unalived for standing their ground, and the response from leadership is silence. We see it when conservative men commit violence, even murder, against teenage girls for having a difference of opinion online, and the system doesn't respond with the same urgency it would if the roles were reversed. And through it all, we are told to stay calm, to keep trusting the process, to believe that the institutions will hold. But what if they already haven't? What we are witnessing isn't chaos. It's choreography. It's a careful dismantling of accountability, the normalization of impunity, and it's being hidden beneath fancy words like plenary authority. See, authoritarianism doesn't always come with tanks in the street. Sometimes it comes wrapped in flags and scripture, handed down through talking points, spoken softly enough to sound like patriotism, but loud enough to rewrite the meaning of freedom. And that's what Stephen Miller did. He revealed the truth about what's happening, not just in policy, but in principle. When someone in proximity to power says, the president has plenary authority, they are saying the president answers to no one. This administration is beyond the law. This is not a democracy, it's a throne. And the chilling part is, he meant it. Now the question becomes, how do we get out of it? How do we push back when systems that are supposed to protect us have been hollowed out from the inside? How do we respond when the courts, the Congress, and the Constitution itself are being treated like suggestions? The answer isn't found in waiting for a hero. The answer is in becoming one. We get out of it by refusing to normalize silence. We get out of it by rebuilding local power by voting, organizing, and defending truth like our lives depend on it, because they do.
The clip of Stephen Miller when he froze after saying the plenary authority, that the president has that or whatever, he slipped up and said it. You could tell he slipped up and said it. When he paused like that, oh my gosh, it just reminded me of how screwed we are. If Donald Trump declares to the world that he is now taking over America, he is indeed a dictator. Not because Donald Trump will be a dictator of America. Nah, I'm not mostly scared of that part. What I'm mostly scared of is once the world finds out, oh baby, we're getting invaded in less than a week. We will be getting invaded. America will be up for the taking because Donald Trump and all the buffoons around him, his cabinet, Republicans, all of them, they are weak people, the weakest leaders we have ever had. Okay? These people are so immature. They're so incompetent. I mean, y'all saw Stephen Miller just now. They're so incompetent, so weak, and just full of hate. Not brains, not intelligence, but hate. They will be taken over within a week. What are we going to do? How are we then going to fight off other countries, you guys? How? We need to do something. If we don't do anything, guys, we're our lives. That's all I'm going to say, is our lives.
Stephen Miller brought back the mannequin challenge. Let me find out he's like single-handedly trying to refresh all of our timelines, our algorithms out here. Yes, he was. Because none other than him having this little Freudian slip here on camera. This man tried to sit there and act like, I guess he thought he was like frozen or something. Like, bro, you know we can see you. Do you know you still blinking? If this don't remind you of any little 3-year-old, you know that, be trying to act like they're invisible or that they are indeed a mannequin and they can like sit still or whatever for, excessively long amounts of time, and we know damn well they can't. This absolutely happened after he stated that the president had plenary power. And of course, Google Analytics went crazy because people were like, well, what does that mean? And it means absolute. It means limitless. It means, unrestricted authority granted to a body or, type situation. And it's just like, and in some instance, you can look at how this word is defined, but it still raised a lot of eyebrows because it's just like, this is not something that you want to say in front of just people. It's like, we know y'all have y'all backroom conversations and you could tell somebody was in an earwig like, I know you lying. Quick, act like the camera froze. But somebody should have been like, don't blink. Don't breathe. Don't do nothing. Hell, he would have been better, acting like he passed out. Because I was sitting there like, boy, are you sitting here acting like we can't see you? Like he's standing behind the curtain with his feet, down there and we can see his feet. Like, America's not a real place, and the jokes are literally writing them fucking selves. And y'all, this is the new adults right here.
Okay, so we all know that Stephen Miller wasn't supposed to say what he said, and he knew it the very moment those words came out of his mouth. You could literally see it on his face. He froze. That wasn't just a technical glitch. No, that was a moment of realization, a moment when he probably thought to himself, oh no, I wasn't supposed to say that on live television. Because once you say something like that, the president, he has plenary authority on national TV. You can't just unsay it, The internet caught it instantly, and the clip has been replayed and dissected millions of times by now. Now, just in case you haven't had the time to look it up, or maybe you've never heard the phrase before, the plenary authority. This basically means unchecked absolute power without any limitations. In other words, it means a leader can do whatever they want without Congress, without the courts, without accountability. That is not democracy. That's not the America we know. That's dictatorship territory. So when Stephen Miller dropped that phrase so casually, it made a lot of people's eyebrows shoot straight up, because phrases like that don't just slip out of someone's mouth by accident. Let's be honest, you don't accidentally talk about absolute power unless you've been talking about it, discussing it, or hearing it behind closed doors for quite some time. The way he said it, paused and froze, that was not confusion. He wasn't confused. That was awareness. He realized exactly what he had, just revealed. And it was too late to unsay it. I think I can put it that way. The only thing left for him to do, at the moment, the only thing that was left for him to do was just, stop talking. And CNN, instead of acknowledging the awkwardness, they tried to smooth it over by calling it a glitch, technical fault. But everyone watching could tell there was more to that than a bad internet connection, because, the guy was still moving. We saw him blinking. There were movements in the background and on himself. Now, this is where it gets deep, because if what he said truly reflects what's being talked about inside the administration, even hypothetically, then that should raise some serious concerns for every American, regardless of political side. The concept of plenary authority is dangerous when placed in the hands of one person, especially in a country built on checks and balances. The United States Constitution doesn't give the president plenary authority over everything. It divides power between the branches to prevent exactly that, a single person ruling without accountability. So in a political leader inside like Stephen Miller, someone who's been in the White House, uses a phrase like that, it's not something you can just brush off. It makes you wonder, was it a simple slip of the tongue, or was it a truth he accidentally let out before realizing the weight of his words? Because the way he froze, guys, it wasn't just physical. It was like his brain hit the brakes mid-sentence. That's the kind of reaction you have when you realize you've said something you weren't supposed to say, something that maybe wasn't meant to say, that was meant to say behind closed doors. And here's the thing, if this was truly just a mistake, then fine, we move on. But if it wasn't, if it reflects a mindset that's growing quietly in the background, then that's a conversation Americans need to start having like right now, because let's be real, plenary authority has no place in a democracy. America was not built for kings. It was built for accountability, for transparency, and for a balance of power. Anything beyond that, and you start crossing into dangerous territory where one person's will becomes law. Now, I'm not saying that is what is happening. Let me be clear on that, okay? I'm just giving my view based on what was said and what we all saw. But it's very important to question things like this, because the moment we stop questioning power, that's when power starts to grow unchecked. And historically, that's how democracies fall, not with a sudden crash, but with small steps, small slips of the tongue like this one, small shifts into language that condition people to accept more and more control from the top. So if Stephen Miller's words were truly just an innocent mistake, then for everyone's sake, I hope that was it. A mistake, a slip of the tongue, nothing more, because the alternative, that this was a glimpse into a deeper political mindset, is something that should concern every American, whether you're left, right, or somewhere in between. We should all agree that no president, no leader, no single person should ever have absolute power, authority, whatever you can call it. That is not freedom, that's control, and history has shown us exactly where that kind of thinking leads. But what do you think, my viewers? Was it really just an innocent moment, or did Stephen Miller accidentally let something slip that the administration didn't want the public to hear about? Do you think CNN tried to cover it up by calling it a glitch or a technical fault, or are people reading too much into it? I want to hear your thoughts on this. Go ahead, drop your thoughts in the comment section down below, because this is one of those moments that deserves an honest, open conversation. At the end of the day, whether you believe it was just a nervous freeze or something more, one thing is for sure: the phrase plenary authority doesn't belong in American politics, not unless someone is quietly trying to rewrite what democracy means in the country. And that's why conversations like this matter. We need to talk about this more. Yeah, otherwise, that is just my opinion. That is my 2 cents. Those are not facts. I'm responding to what the internet is saying about what Stephen Miller said on live TV. Yeah, with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. This is one of those moments that really makes you think about where things are heading, and hopefully it's just a misunderstanding and not something being planned behind the scenes. But like I always say, stay alert, stay informed, and most importantly, stay aware. I'll definitely see you in my next video. Please stay peaceful.